Levi's phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with a photo of his best friend Caleb, grinning at his 21st birthday party. The text read, "Where you at? Man, it's wild here." But Levi was 300 miles away, stranded in a gas station parking lot in the middle of nowhere, Virginia. His car dead and his heart heavier than the tow truck dragging his old Honda away. He meant to be there. Caleb's party was the event of the year, a blowout at his family's sprawling estate in Richmond, complete with a DJ, open bar, and half the college invited. But life had a way of screwing Levi over lately. First, the scholarship rejection, then his mom's hospital bills piling up, and now this. His car had sputtered out on I-95, and by the time he'd sorted out a tow, it was clear he wasn't making it to the party. He fired off a quick apology text to Caleb, promising to make it up, but the guilt gnawed at him. Caleb had been there through everything: Levi's coming out, the messy breakup with his ex, even the late-night panic attacks when the world felt too big. Missing this felt like betrayal. Levi slumped against the gas station wall, the neon lights buzzing overhead, and dialed Caleb's dad, Marcus, who'd always been the practical one in their circle. Marcus was a widower, a literature professor at UVA, and the kind of guy who could fix anything: cars, broken spirits, you name it. Levi had always admired him, maybe a little too much, but he'd never admit it. "Hey, Marcus, it's Levi," he said when the call connected, his voice tight. "My car's toast. I'm stuck out here near Lexington. Any chance you could help?" There was a pause. Then Marcus's warm, steady voice came through. "Levi, I'm sorry you're stranded. Caleb's party is in full swing, but I'm not much for crowds these days. Tell you what, get yourself to my place. I'm home. You can celebrate with me." Something in his tone, gentle but inviting, made Levi's pulse quicken. He brushed it off as exhaustion. "I'll send a cab to pick you up," Marcus added. No arguments. An hour later, Levi was in a cab, the Virginia countryside blurring past as he headed to Marcus's house in Charlottesville. He'd been there before, countless summers hanging out with Caleb, barbecues in the backyard, late-night talks about life. Marcus's place was a sanctuary, all warm wood and bookshelves, the kind of home that felt like it held stories in its walls. But tonight, with Caleb and the party miles away, Levi felt a strange mix of relief and nerves. Marcus was 46, effortlessly handsome, with a quiet intensity that always made Levi feel seen. Too seen, sometimes. The cab pulled up to the house, a modern two-story with wide windows glowing softly against the night. Levi thanked the driver, grabbed his backpack, and walked up the stone path. The door opened before he could knock, and there was Marcus, tall, broad-shouldered, his charcoal button-up rolled to the elbows, revealing strong forearms. His salt and pepper hair caught the porch light, and his brown eyes softened when they met Levi's. "You look like you've had a hell of a day," Marcus said, stepping aside to let him in. "Understatement," Levi muttered, dropping his bag by the door. The house smelled of cedar and something warm, like fresh coffee or maybe wine. Marcus led him to the living room, where a fire crackled on the hearth, and a bottle of red sat open on the coffee table, 2 glasses waiting. "Figured you could use a drink," Marcus said, pouring one and handing it to Levi. Their fingers brushed, and Levi's stomach flipped. He told himself it was just the wine, the exhaustion, the weirdness of the night. They sat on the couch, closer than Levi expected, and talked. Not about the car or the party, but about everything else. Levi's fears about his future. Marcus's quiet grief over his wife's passing 5 years ago. The way they both felt like they were running out of time to figure things out. Marcus listened, really listened, his gaze steady and warm. And Levi found himself opening up in ways he hadn't with anyone. Not even Caleb. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, charged with something Levi couldn't name. "You ever feel like you're waiting for permission to live?" Levi asked, his voice barely above a whisper. He was staring at the fire, but he felt Marcus's eyes on him. Marcus leaned closer, his voice low. "All the time. But sometimes, Levi, you just have to take it." Their knees touched, and neither pulled away. Levi's heart pounded, a mix of fear and want. This was Caleb's dad. This was wrong. But the way Marcus looked at him, like he was more than just a kid who'd messed up, made Levi wonder if maybe, just maybe, this was where he was supposed to be tonight. The firelight danced across Marcus's face, carving shadows that made his features sharper, more magnetic. Levi clutched his wine glass, the warmth of the Merlot doing little to calm the storm in his chest. He'd always known Marcus was attractive. Hell, half the UVA campus had a crush on Professor Callahan, but this was different. This was dangerous, a pull that felt like gravity, undeniable and reckless. Marcus shifted, his knees still pressed against Levi's, and set his glass down. "You're quiet," he said, his voice a low rumble. "What's going on in that head of yours?" Levi laughed, nervous, and ran a hand through his dark hair. "Honestly, I'm trying to figure out why I'm here and not at Caleb's party. Getting drunk with people my own age." He meant it as a joke, but it came out raw, exposing the tangle of guilt and longing he'd been wrestling with all night. Marcus's lips curved into a half-smile, not mocking but knowing. "Maybe because you needed something real tonight. Not just noise and shots." He paused, his eyes searching Levi's. "Or maybe I'm just glad you're here." The words hung between them, heavy with possibility. Levi's breath caught, and he set his glass down, afraid he'd spill it. "Marcus." He stopped, unsure what he even wanted to say. That he'd always noticed the way Marcus's laugh lit up a room, that he'd spent too many nights wondering what it would be like to be closer to him. To cross that line, he shook his head, trying to clear the thoughts. "This is weird." "You're Caleb's dad." "I am," Marcus said softly, but he didn't move away. "And you're Levi." "Not just Caleb's friend. Not just some kid." "You." The way he said it, like Levi was someone worth seeing, made something in Levi's chest crack open. They talked more, the conversation weaving through safer topics. Marcus's latest lecture on Whitman, Levi's failed attempt at a poetry class, but the undercurrent never faded. Every glance, every brush of their hands as they reached for the wine bottle, felt like a step towards something inevitable. Levi told himself to leave, to call another cab and crash at a motel. But his body wouldn't move. The couch, the fire, Marcus's presence, it was all too warm, too right. Then Marcus stood, stretching, his shirt pulling tight across his shoulders. "Come on," he said, nodding toward the kitchen. "You haven't eaten, have you? Let's make something." Levi followed, grateful for the distraction, but hyper-aware of Marcus's every move, the way he chopped vegetables with precision, The way his laugh echoed when Levi admitted he could barely boil water. They made pasta, simple but perfect, and sat at the kitchen island, their plates close, their elbows brushing. "You're good at this," Levi said, twirling spaghetti on his fork. "Taking care of people." Marcus shrugged, but his eyes were warm. "Comes with the territory." Caleb was a handful growing up. "You too, if I remember right." He grinned, and Levi laughed, remembering the summers they'd spent sneaking beers from Marcus's fridge, thinking they were so slick. But the laughter faded, and the air shifted again. Marcus reached out, his hand resting on Levi's wrist. Just for a moment, but it was enough to send a jolt through him. "Levi," Marcus said, his voice softened now. "You don't have to keep running from whatever you're feeling." "Not here." Levi froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. The kitchen felt too small, the world too big. He wanted to say something, anything, but all he could do was look at Marcus, at the lines around his eyes, the quiet strength in his posture. He wanted to lean in, to close the distance, but fear held him back. What would Caleb think? What would anyone think? "I don't know what I'm doing," Levi admitted, his voice barely audible. I don't want to mess this up." Marcus's hand lingered, then pulled back, but his gaze didn't waver. "You're not messing anything up," he said. "Sometimes life puts you exactly where you need to be, even if it doesn't make sense." They finished dinner in a quiet that wasn't awkward, but electric, every moment charged with what wasn't said. Levi helped wash dishes, their shoulders brushing as they stood at the sink. And when Marcus handed him a towel to dry his hands, their fingers lingered too long. Levi's heart was a drumbeat, loud and insistent. And when Marcus suggested they move back to the living room, Levi followed, knowing he was stepping into something he couldn't undo. Back in the living room, the fire had died to embers, but the warmth lingered, wrapping Levi and Marcus in a cocoon of light and shadow. They sat closer now, the wine bottle empty, their glasses forgotten on the table. Levi's pulse hadn't slowed, and every time Marcus's gaze met his, it felt like a challenge, a question, a promise. "You ever think about what you really want?" Marcus asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. He was leaning back, one arm draped over the couch, his body open, inviting. "Not what you're supposed to want, but what keeps you up at night." Levi swallowed, his throat dry. He thought about it all the time, about escaping the weight of his mom's illness, the pressure to be the perfect son, the perfect friend, about the way he'd always felt different, not just because he was gay, but because he wanted more than what his small-town life offered. And lately, he thought about Marcus, about the way his presence made everything else quiet. "Yeah," Levi said finally. "But wanting something doesn't mean you get it." Marcus's eyes darkened, not with anger, but with understanding. "Sometimes it does," he said. "If you're brave enough to try." The words hit Levi like a wave, pulling him under. He shifted closer, their thighs pressed together now, and Marcus didn't move away. Levi's hand rested on the couch, inches from Marcus's, and he felt the heat of his skin, the pull of something he'd been fighting all night. "Marcus," he started, his voice shaking. "What are we doing?" Marcus turned to face him fully, his expression raw, unguarded. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I know I haven't felt this alive in years." He reached out, his hand cupping Levi's cheek, his thumb brushing lightly over his jaw. Levi's breath hitched, and for a moment, the world stopped, just the two of them. The fire's faint glow, the weight of a choice neither could take back. Levi leaned in first. Or maybe Marcus did, but suddenly their lips met. Soft and hesitant, then urgent, hungry. It was electric, a spark that ignited everything Levi had been holding back. Marcus's hands found his waist, pulling him closer, and Levi's fingers tangled in Marcus's hair. The kiss deepening, a mix of need and relief. It was wrong. It was complicated, but it was also the most honest thing Levi had ever done. They broke apart, breathless, foreheads pressed together. "We shouldn't," Levi whispered, but his hands were still on Marcus, unwilling to let go. "We probably shouldn't," Marcus agreed, his voice rough, but his eyes were bright, alive. "But I don't want to stop." They kissed again, slower this time, exploring, savoring. The world outside, Caleb, the party, the broken car, the expectations faded to nothing. Levi felt like he was finally breathing, finally free, even if just for this moment. But as Marcus's hands slid under his sweater, a sharp buzz cut through the haze, Levi's phone, vibrating on the coffee table. He pulled back, heart racing, and glanced at the screen. "A text from Caleb, dude. You okay? Dad said you're at our place." "Call me." Guilt crashed over Levi like a cold wave. He looked at Marcus, whose expression mirrored his own, want tangled with worry. "We need to talk about this," Levi said, his voice unsteady. "About Caleb. About what this means." Marcus nodded, his hand still resting on Levi's knee. "We will. But not tonight. Tonight, it's just us." He leaned in, kissing Levi's forehead, a gesture so tender it made Levi's chest ache. They stayed like that, wrapped in each other, the weight of tomorrow looming but not yet here. Morning light filtered through the living room curtains, soft and golden, but it did nothing to ease the knot in Levi's stomach. He woke on the couch, a throw blanket draped over him. Marcus's scent, cedar and something faintly spicy, lingering on the fabric. Marcus was in the kitchen, the clink of coffee mugs a quiet reminder of the night before. Levi's lips still tingled from their kisses, his heart caught between exhilaration and dread. He sat up, running a hand through his messy hair, and checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Caleb and a string of texts, each one more worried than the last. "Levi, what's going on? You with Dad? Call me." "Man," Levi's throat tightened. Caleb was his brother in all but blood, the one who'd stuck by him when he came out at 17, when his dad walked out, when everything fell apart. And now Levi had crossed a line he couldn't uncross. Marcus appeared in the doorway, holding 2 steaming mugs, his expression soft but guarded. "Morning," he said, handing Levi a coffee. "You sleep okay?" Levi nodded, taking the mug, their fingers brushing again. That small touch was enough to reignite the spark from last night, but guilt doused it just as fast. "Marcus, we need to tell Caleb," he said, his voice low. "I can't lie to him." Marcus sat beside him, close but not touching, his jaw tight. "I know. But it's complicated. Levi, Caleb's my son. You're his best friend. This could break things. Then why did we—" Levi stopped, the words too heavy. Why they kissed? Why they let it go so far? Because it felt right? Levi thought. But right didn't mean easy. I don't regret it, he said finally, meeting Marcus's eyes. But I don't know how to do this without hurting him. Marcus's hand found Levi's, squeezing gently. We'll figure it out. Together. The promise was fragile, but it was enough for now. They drank their coffee in silence, the weight of their choices settling between them. Levi spent the day at Marcus's, waiting for the mechanic to call about his car. They avoided heavy topics, sticking to safe ground: books, music, the way the Virginia hills looked in the morning light. But every glance, every accidental touch, carried the memory of last night. By afternoon, Levi knew he couldn't stay in this bubble forever. He called Caleb, his heart pounding as the phone rang. Levi, what the hell? Caleb's voice was loud, worried but not angry. You disappear, and Dad says you're crashing at our place? You okay? I'm fine, Levi Leet. His eyes flicking to Marcus, who was watching from across the room. Car broke down. Your dad, he helped me out. I'm sorry I missed your party. Caleb laughed, relieved. Man, you owe me a beer. Party was epic, but it wasn't the same without you. Come by tonight. Yeah, we're doing a chill after party. Levi hesitated, glancing at Marcus. Yeah, maybe. I'll let you know. He hung up, feeling like a coward. He couldn't face Caleb. Not yet. Not with Marcus's touch still burning in his memory. That evening, Marcus drove Levi to the mechanic to pick up his car. The ride was quiet, the tension between them palpable. At a stoplight, Marcus reached over, his hand resting on Levi's thigh. Whatever happens, he said, last night meant something. To me. Levi's chest ached. To me too, but as they pulled into the mechanic's lot, reality crashed in. This wasn't just about them. It was about Caleb, about trust, about the life Levi had built and the one he might lose. Levi's car was fixed, but he felt more broken than ever. He drove back to his apartment in Richmond, Marcus's words echoing in his head. Last night meant something. It had. But what? A fleeting moment of connection. Or something worth risking everything for. Levi didn't know, and the uncertainty gnawed at him as he pulled into his parking lot, the city lights blurring through his windshield. Caleb called again that night, insistent. Levi, get your ass over here. We're at the house. Just a few of us. You can't bail twice. Levi wanted to say no, to hide from the guilt, but he couldn't keep dodging his best friend. He showered, changed into a fresh shirt, and drove to Caleb's family estate, his stomach in knots. The house was quieter now, the party's chaos replaced by a small group of friends sprawled across the living room, laughing over beers. Caleb greeted Levi with a bear hug, oblivious to the storm in Levi's chest. There he is. Thought you'd gone AWOL. Man, Levi forced a smile, his eyes scanning the room. Marcus was there, leaning against the kitchen doorway, a beer in hand, his expression unreadable. The night blurred on, music, stories. Caleb recounting the party Levi missed, but Levi's focus was on Marcus. Every time their eyes met, it was like a secret shared, a reminder of what they'd done. Levi tried to act normal, joking with Caleb, but his heart wasn't in it. When Marcus stepped outside to the patio, Levi followed, unable to stay away. The night air was cool, the stars bright above the sprawling backyard. Marcus stood by the railing, his silhouette sharp against the moonlight. You didn't have to come, he said without turning, his voice low. I had to, Levi said, stepping closer. Caleb's my best friend. And you, he trailed off, unsure how to finish. Marcus turned, his eyes searching Levi's. And for a moment, they were back in that living room, the world falling away. We can't keep doing this, Levi said, his voice breaking. Not like this. Not sneaking around. Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. I know. But I don't know how to let you go. Levi, he stepped closer, his hand brushing Levi's arm. And Levi felt the pull again, stronger than ever. They stood there, inches apart, the tension a living thing between them. Then the patio door slid open, and Caleb's voice cut through. Yo, Levi, you out here? They sprang apart, Levi's heart racing as Caleb stepped outside, oblivious. Dad, you stealing my best friend? He teased, slinging an arm around Levi's shoulders. Marcus laughed, but it was strained. Just catching up, he said, his eyes flicking to Levi. Caleb dragged Levi back inside, and the rest of the night was a blur of forced smiles and half-hearted laughs. When Levi finally left, Marcus's gaze followed him, a silent promise that this wasn't over. Back home, Levi couldn't sleep. He stared at his phone, at the photo of him and Caleb from last summer, grinning by the lake. He thought about Marcus, about the way his touch felt like home, and about the secret they were keeping. He wanted to be honest, to tell Caleb everything. But the thought of losing him, or Marcus, was too much. Levi had spent his life running from hard choices, but this one was catching up fast. Days turned into weeks, and Levi was caught in a limbo of his own making. He saw Marcus twice more, once for coffee, once for a late-night drive, each meeting charged with the same electric pull, but shadowed by guilt. They hadn't kissed again, hadn't crossed that line, but the one was there, a constant ache. Levi knew they couldn't keep dancing around it. He had to choose, tell Caleb and risk everything, or walk away and lose Marcus. He chose truth. On a rainy Saturday, Levi drove to Caleb's apartment, his heart pounding harder than the downpour. Caleb opened the door, his easy grin fading when he saw Levi's expression. What's wrong, man? He asked, stepping aside to let Levi in. Levi stood in the living room, dripping wet, the words stuck in his throat. Caleb, I need to tell you something, he started, his voice shaking. It's about your dad. And me. Caleb's brow furrowed, confusion turning to realization as Levi spilled everything the night at Marcus's. The kisses, the feelings neither could ignore. Caleb listened, his face unreadable, and when Levi finished, the silence was deafening. You and my dad? Caleb said finally, his voice low, hurt. Levi, how could you not tell me? I didn't know how, Levi said, tears burning his eyes. I didn't want to hurt you. You're my best friend. Caleb, I love you like family. But I think I love him too. Caleb paced, running a hand through his hair. This is messed up, he said, but there was no anger, just pain. He's my dad, Levi, and you're you. I need time to process this. Levi nodded, his chest tight. I'm sorry, he whispered, and left, the rain hiding his tears. For days, Caleb didn't call, and Marcus kept his distance, giving Levi space. Levi threw himself into work, into helping his mom, but the emptiness was unbearable. Then, one evening, Caleb texted, "Meet me at the house. We need to talk." Levi arrived, his nerves frayed, and found Caleb and Marcus in the living room, the same room where it all began. Caleb looked tired but calm. "I'm not gonna lie," he said. "This hurts. But I've seen how Dad's been since Mom died, closed off, alone. And you, Levi, you've been carrying the world. If you two make each other happy, I can't stand in the way of that." Levi's eyes widened, hope flickering. "You're okay with this?" Caleb sighed. "Not okay. Not yet. But I'll get there. Just be honest with me from now on." "Yeah." Levi nodded, tears falling freely now. Marcus reached for his hand, and this time, Levi didn't pull away. They had a long road ahead, navigating Caleb's feelings, society's judgments, their own fears, but in that moment, Levi felt something he hadn't in years: hope. Love wasn't simple, wasn't clean, but it was real, and it was theirs. As they sat together, the three of them talking, rebuilding, Levi realized that missing Caleb's party had led him to something he'd been searching for his whole life: a chance to love, to be seen, to build a future worth fighting for. And that night, with Marcus's hand in his and Caleb's reluctant blessing, Levi knew he'd found it.